Imagine waking up one morning and finding out you are no longer a citizen of the country where your ancestors have lived for thousands of years. Sounds impossible? Well, for many Native Americans, this is not just a theoretical nightmare, it's a political reality unfolding before our eyes. Recently, former President Donald Trump made a shocking statement, claiming that not all Native Americans should be considered U.S. citizens. His push to eliminate birthright citizenship could disproportionately affect Indigenous people, despite the fact that they were the first inhabitants of this land. Native Americans are now questioning their status, with some sarcastically stating, "I guess I'm not American anymore." But how did we get to this point? And why is America still erasing its first people? The United States was built on the myth of freedom and progress. But that progress came at a cost. Millions of Indigenous people were dispossessed, displaced, and exterminated. Their land was stolen, their cultures suppressed, their voices silenced. One of the darkest chapters, the boarding schools. Until the 1960s, Indigenous children were forcibly taken from their families and placed in government-run institutions designed to assimilate them. Many suffered abuse and cultural erasure. Only recently, President Biden formally apologized for these atrocities. Today, the methods have changed, but the oppression remains. Native Americans make up about 2% of the U.S. population, roughly 6.8 million people. They suffer the highest rates of poverty, unemployment, and suicide in the country. Many reservations are plagued by poverty, addiction, and despair. Access to clean water, education, and healthcare is often inadequate. While America spends billions on wars abroad, Indigenous women and children die in their own communities, overlooked, forgotten, ignored. But how does American politics respond? Instead of help, there is more neglect, more mockery. Donald Trump, adored by millions, has often spoken about the superiority of good genes. His message? Only the right people deserve to be here. But who were the first people of this land? Who lived here for thousands of years before the colonists arrived? And who is now being treated as a foreigner? Trump infamously mocked Senator Elizabeth Warren, calling her Pocahontas when she mentioned her native ancestry. He even hosted Navajo veterans beneath a portrait of Andrew Jackson, the very president responsible for the forced displacement and deaths of thousands of Native Americans. His actions reveal a deep-seated ignorance and disrespect for Indigenous people. Now, Trump is pushing to eliminate birthright citizenship, the principle that grants automatic U.S. citizenship to anyone born in the country. This could disproportionately affect Indigenous communities, where many are born in remote areas without proper documentation. Already, 22 states have filed lawsuits against this proposal. When it comes to their land, the government's true stance becomes clear. Pipelines are built through sacred sites. National parks, once Indigenous land, are opened for oil and gas drilling. Protests are brutally suppressed. The Indigenous voice is ignored. One example, the Dakota Access Pipeline. Native Americans protested for months against this project, which threatens their drinking water. Their reward? rubber bullets, tear gas, and mass arrests. The truth is uncomfortable, but it must be told. America's indigenous peoples are still being oppressed, while the world looks away. But they are not defeated. They continue to fight, for their rights, for their land, for their future. If you want to learn more, stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel and share this video, because the truth must no longer remain hidden.